Mike Weaver isn't quite what one would expect in a former heavyweight champion. A quiet man, he would rather read the Bible, play the piano, or make an oil painting rather than be on the public stage. But the more aggressive his opponents were, the more likely they would find out why he was nicknamed. Mike Weaver was born in Gatesville, Texas on June 13, 1951. "I left Gatesville when I was 3 or 4 years old," Weaver said in an interview with Ring magazine. "We moved to California. Things weren't tough. My father was a mechanic, worked on big trucks." Weaver came from a large family. His mother and father had 10 kids together. His mother had one son from a previous marriage, while Weaver would find out at his father's funeral that his father had 17 other children from previous relationships. Weaver would be a star athlete at Ganesha High in Pomona, California, where he ran the 100-yard dash in 9.8 seconds, long jump 25 feet, and was good enough as a fullback to be offered a football scholarship to Mount San Antonio College. But a pair of Marine Corps recruiters came to his school and challenged Weaver, telling him that they only took the toughest men around. Weaver would enlist, seeing combat in Vietnam, which he never spoke about. His boxing career would get its start out of pure luck. While stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, Weaver was in the NCO club and arrived at a jukebox at the same time with another Marine who wanted his song played first. Punches were thrown and Weaver would knock out his aggressor. Weaver would then find out that he just laid out the boxing champion of the Marine Corps. The next day, the boxing coach looked him up and convinced Weaver to take up the sport. Weaver would then leave the Marines in 1971, compiling a 23-3 amateur boxing record, and he would win the All-Marine and All-Services titles. Turning professional in 1972, boxing didn't seem like it was Weaver's calling. He would lose 6 of his first 12 fights, which included losses to both of the Bobbick brothers, Dwayne and Rodney. Weaver would later blame his poor performances on his lack of conditioning and admitted that if a fight went past 3 rounds, he was in trouble. He would find work as Ron Lyle's sparring partner, but would quit after only 3 days. Later, he would become Ken Norton's sparring partner, and it was Norton who nicknamed him Hercules, a moniker that Weaver would later detest. He also disliked the sport of boxing, and 3 times he would quit the game. Each time, Norton would talk him back into the gym, telling him, "The only guy you can't beat is yourself. The power and the potential of a world champion are there. You just won't train." Weaver admitted that he didn't take the sport seriously during the early part of his career. Even though he was a shy, soft-spoken man, he admitted that he was more interested in chasing girls than training. He held down a job at a paint factory, but when he was laid off, he decided to heed the words of Ken Norton and train every day. In 1976, he would knock out Eddie Bossman Jones in a sparring session. Jones's manager, Don Manuel, knew a good thing when he saw it and immediately signed him. Weaver would win 5 bouts under Manuel until losing back-to-back close decisions against Stan Ward and Leroy Jones. Manager Emanuel was so disgusted with Weaver after his performance in the Jones fight that he smacked his charge upside the head in the dressing room and walked out on him. Weaver pleaded with Emanuel for one more chance. He then went on a tear, taking out capable fighters like Bernardo Machado and Stan Ward in a rematch, before taking on Larry Holmes in June of 1979. Weaver would come into the contest with a 19-8 record and was seen as an undeserving challenger for the heavyweight title. As the fight began, Weaver verified the scouting reports, looking slow and passive. But he caught Holmes with a thumb in the first round, causing the champion to go on the defensive. By rounds 4 and 5, Weaver started to land hard shots on Holmes, and the two went at each other with a fury. Weaver no longer looked like a journeyman. He fought like a man determined to be a champion. As the 10th round began, Holmes said, "I'm the champion. There's no way you're going to beat me." "I'm going to try," Weaver replied. Digging deeper than he had at any time prior in his career, Holmes rallied to take out the upstart challenger.
I remember Larry Holmes' fight. He was a matador. I was a bull, and I was doing the pressuring, Larry Holmes doing the dancing, and using that good left jab of his, which he was known for. But I remember through the fight, a lot of times I was out jabbing Larry Holmes. I beat him to the punch, and Larry Holmes was very frustrated in the fight. It's unfortunately, in the 11th round, he caught my left uppercut and knocked me down. I wasn't hurt. I was so tired and exhausted. And the 12th round came, we started throwing punches, and the referee started to fight, and everybody started booing because they felt it shouldn't be stopped. But that was real well. The reason I remember so well, I watch every day.
The strong showing marked Weaver as a fighter to watch. 2 more victories followed, including a win over longtime contender Scott LeDoux. Then on March 31st, 1980, Weaver would get a crack at the WBA version of the heavyweight title. Weaver was once again seen as an underdog, this time against the hometown favorite, John Tate.
There are times, though, when a man has to push himself, really push himself beyond a barrier that he's never traveled before in order to exercise an opportunity such as you have. Have you driven yourself to a new level of physical and mental conditioning?
Yeah, I drove myself to the physical, I pushed myself. Where the time I used to run a few miles and say get tired and stop, now I just push myself past that point. And then to the mental, I put myself to a mental peak too, believing that I have confidence and faith in myself. So I push myself both physically and mentally.
What about Mike Weaver, the man? What does this moment mean to you as a human being?
This fight right here means, everything to me, If I lose this fight, I might not get another shot at the title. It means, it means the dream, the prayer, and everything I had coming true. Tate made the champion today, Bob will be champion tomorrow, so it means everything to me.
Before the fight, the pastor of Weaver's church gave him a Star of David, telling him that it would give him happiness and good fortune. Weaver stuck it into his left shoe before he entered the ring against Tate, praying for victory. Tate took a commanding early lead as Weaver regressed back to his old ways of not punching enough. In the 12th, he showed signs of life, rocking Tate, but in the 13th, Weaver didn't follow up on his advantage, and a defeat seemed certain. So the deeply religious man began reciting the 23rd Psalm to himself, looking for some kind of divine intervention. Before the bell for the 15th round sounded, manager Don Manuel once again had to inspire Weaver with harsh words, saying, "Go out there and knock him out. If you don't come back to the corner."
Tate has a 25-pound edge, though, and that makes a difference when you get into a situation like this where everybody's flailing away or where the other man is desperate. You got that much of an edge, you can tie him up. I see some blood on the shoulder of Tate. That's got to be coming from somewhere. So far, I haven't exactly seen where. There's a overhand right high on the side of Tate's head by Weaver. I guess Mike's nose bleeding a little bit. Maybe what it is. Left back. Tate goes down on his face. Weaver hit him with a left hook, and Tate is down. He's just beginning to move. The fight is over. Weaver has knocked him out in the 15th round. With less than a minute to go in the 15th round, Weaver knocked him cold.
Next up would be a title defense against the hard-hitting Harry Coetzee in the challenger's native South Africa. But winning the title changed Weaver's mindset. Working harder than ever before, he put in 5 weeks of training at high altitude in Lake Tahoe, where he sparred over 220 rounds. He would then head into Sun City in South Africa for the last 4 weeks of preparation to get acclimated to the city's 5,000 feet altitude. Once there, he would spar another 180 rounds and run 6 miles per day. Weaver would be paid a career-high $2.2 million plus a part of the television proceeds, while Coetzee would get only $150,000. But the only thing Coetzee wanted was the title, and it appeared early on that he would get it. Coetzee would start fast, trying to take out the now notoriously slow-starting Weaver early. Weaver was also partially blinded by a liniment that was rubbed on Coetzee's chest and shoulders that now got into his eyes. In the 8th round, Coetzee landed his famed bionic right hand. Weaver was shaken, but the punch seemed to snap him out of his lethargy, and he began fighting back.
Other hand, that's a foul. And the referee warned him rightly so. Good combination from Weaver landed. Under 30 seconds here in the 10th round, and a left
from Coetzee landed, and Weaver came back with a right hand.
I'm really surprised that the crowd they've been very neutral. There hasn't been too much cheering for Coetzee. When he does anything big, they're very, very quiet. I guess they're waiting for something.
Oh, what a left to the body from Weaver, and a left up top after it.
The left hook broke Coetzee's nose.
There's blood on the face, and he's got him hurt. He's got him hurt. Weaver pounding away at Coetzee. Tremendous left to the body and then a left to the head, and Coetzee manages to tie him up on the ropes. The best flurry of the fight for Weaver by far. And there they are back on the ropes. Left hook from Weaver. Well, cheekbone.
What he did, he threw the punches on the break, and you see Coetzee look at the referee.
Good finishing flurry at the end of round 12. Good combination from Weaver landing. He has never been stopped, has lost only once, and he said he had never been stopped as an amateur. Had over 200 amateur fights. Another good right hand from Weaver.
Mike is really coming now, full of confidence. Got his second win coming on pretty good.
Right landed from Weaver, and down goes Coetzee. Tremendous right hand. Mike Weaver, the champion, and Coetzee now trying to get up, is going to not make it. I do not believe it is all over. He did not get up, and Mike Weaver, with a 13th round knockout, has defended his WBA championship.
A full year would elapse before Weaver would step into the ring again. There were on and off again bouts scheduled against the popular #1 contender Jerry Cooney, but the fight would never come to fruition. Finally, in October of 1981, he would decision a reluctant James Quick Tillis in a boring affair, and as one writer put it, Tillis fought as if he thought he were in the Boston Marathon. Another 14 months of inactivity would follow. Weaver would have on and off again bouts scheduled, this time against the rugged Tex Cobb. Finally, he would step back in the ring against Michael Dynamite Dokes.
The WBA rules in effect for the fight: 10-point must scoring, 3 judges, a referee does not vote, 10-ounce gloves. WBA uses them 10 ounce, and they open up big. Here's Michael Dokes coming out with a big flurry, and he lashes the left hook and a stiff jab to the face of Mike Weaver. Weaver goes down from a wicked left hook. Michael Dokes nailed Weaver flush on the jaw with a left hook. Weaver coming out a bit slowly, and Dokes came out like a raging thunderstorm, and he's trying to get Weaver early. There is always a considered risk here. If Weaver weathers the storm, Dokes will have to, somewhere along the way, find some reserve. He brings the right hand over the top and catches Weaver on the side of the head. Weaver now leaning back against the ropes, trying to cover, trying to weather the storm. 3 knockdown rule is in effect in WBA, and the fight has been stopped. Joey Curtis, the referee, has stopped the fight in the very first round. Weaver leaning back on the ropes, and Weaver is in a posture of utter disgust. He did not obviously feel, nor did his corner people feel, that he was in danger after being knocked down. It could be that everybody is so sensitive after the Duke Kim tragedy. The fight was stopped. Mike Weaver, his side of it. You appeared enraged when it was called, Michael. Were you hurt?
No, I was not hurt. Dokes caught me with a good left hook, and naturally dropped me down, but I got up immediately. I wasn't hurt. I really don't know why the referee stopped the fight. I really don't. I mean, I was not hurt a bit. I really don't know why they did it.
He says that you did not respond as much as he would have wanted you to after the knockdown.
Well, how much he wanted me to respond? He hit me with a good left hook. He knocked me down, and what else can I do? I mean, I was throwing punches. I mean, it's nothing but a sit-up.
This is the championship of the world. I know that they're having lots of controversy, and I feel like I know when the fight should be stopped. I would have stopped it myself if I thought he'd been in trouble. I always have, but he wasn't in that kind of trouble. They should have let the fight continue. And I'm definitely going to I've already protested it, and I want to hear in on it right away.
Referee Joey Curtis overreacted, perhaps due to the fact that boxing referees were now under scrutiny, as a month earlier, Duk Koo Kim had suffered a fatal beating at the hands of Ray Mancini. A more cynical narrative was that Joey Curtis's premature stoppage was due to having a preference for Dokes, who was the house fighter under promoter Don King. Dokes then demanded the belt that Weaver had worn into the ring. One of Weaver's brothers took offense and swung at Dokes. Then a brawl took place between both camps. Both ring announcer Chuck Hull and referee Joey Curtis ran back into the dressing rooms. Fans shouted "Fix, fix" after the fight, which was soon replaced by a louder chant of "Don King sucks." King only laughed like a demon, setting up a rematch that would take place 5 months later. Dokes would now be the fighter looking to retain the luxuries he now enjoyed as a champion, while Weaver was looking to regain the luxuries once tasted. The end result was an unexpected heavyweight classic of near non-stop action.
majority decision. It is even a draw.
A draw? No.
It would be the first draw for the heavyweight title in over 70 years. Both fighters were worse for wear. Weaver had a 2-inch gash over his left eyebrow and a cut next to his right eye. Exhausted with a swollen head, Dokes would say that the bout was the toughest of his career and that he never wanted to see Weaver in the ring again. Weaver's career would then get back on the roller coaster, taking out Stan Ward in the third meeting between the two, before getting a bizarre disqualification victory over Tony Anthony when he was hit and concussed after the bell sounded for the first round. 7 months later, he would challenge the new WBC heavyweight champion, Pinklon Thomas. Thomas was a 27-year-old former heroin addict who was installed as an 8-5 favorite. He was known primarily for having a Sonny Liston-style left jab, but it was his right hand that couldn't seem to miss Weaver. Weaver would be floored early, but by the third round, his power got him back into the fight. It took Thomas a couple of rounds to notice that Weaver had begun to drop his left after throwing his jab. Weaver would never see Thomas's right cross coming. Weaver would never contend for any of the title belts again, but he would not transition into the role of a trial horse just yet, as he was brought in as an opponent for Carl the Truth Williams. Williams was highly touted at the time, coming off a controversial loss to Larry Holmes, and there were many who saw the Truth as the future of the division.
Beautiful left and right, then one to the body, mixing it up by Williams. Weaver is hurt. Round two, 1:14 to go in the round. And down goes Carl Williams.
cannot be saved by the bell in New York State except the last round. Weaver comes out like a raging bull, throws everything on the chin. We have 25 seconds. Third time. The fight is over. And Mike Weaver becomes a gymnast, and the crowd goes crazy.
Despite the exciting win, Weaver couldn't sustain the momentum, and back down the roller coaster he went, losing back-to-back bouts against Bone Crusher Smith and Razor Ruddock. The roller coaster would come back up once more, however, as he would upset two undefeated fighters back-to-back, in James Pritchard and Johnny Deploy. But after losing to Deploy in a rematch, Weaver would become an afterthought in the sport. He would fight sporadically, getting wins here and there, but losing to Bone Crusher Smith in a rematch and getting knocked out by an up-and-coming Lennox Lewis. In November of 2000, a 48-year-old Weaver would have a rematch with Larry Holmes over 20 years after their first encounter and be stopped in the 6th round. Weaver would retire from boxing and find work with the United States Postal Service. He would also open a gym and train young fighters as a hobby. Weaver would marry 4 times and now lives in Moreno Valley, California, enjoying time with his 5 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. Weaver's career can best be described as a roller coaster ride. His ups were spectacular, with highlight reel knockouts, while his losses never seemed to keep him down. He was a classic example of how some champions are made, not born, and how with his natural power and hard work, he became a real-life Hercules.